Good evening, everybody. This is Marty from Dawgs blog. Tonight's podcast on Friday, February 8th, 2019, on the Frank Carson et al. Trial. Court got started. The jury was up around 1:33 this afternoon. Judge on the bench at 1:35, so we did pretty good this afternoon. Marlissa Ferrer continued her redirect of Robert Woody, and she showed him evidence number 738, and initially I thought it might have been a picture, but it wasn't. It was an autopsy report of Corey Kaufman. She asked him if he has ever seen it before, and he says, no, ma'am. Asked him if any private investigators had read reports and look at any documents that say work boots. So she had him look at the autopsy reports and asked him if it said work boots, and asked him if any private investigator had read that to him before, and he says no. She asked him, does it say a cause of death? And there was a massive objection, which led to a sidebar. And so she came back from the sidebar, and she asked, does anyone tell him that Corey Kaufman was shot in the back? He said no. Cause of death? No. It doesn't say that on the document. Evidence number 737 again was at Google Maps satellite view, and talking about the circles and the marks and all the diagrams that he drew on the picture, and she compared it to the DA-A, which is Daljeet Atwal-A. Was a close-up of the it was a zoomed-in version of that Google Maps picture that she had, and she says, has anything changed in the marked area? And he had put Baljeet Atwal's vehicle about the same spot on both pictures, and neither one of them were in the driveway. She again asked, has she gotten any information in regards to any of the marks he made from anyone else? He said no. He says, I was there. Why did he say they were Nike work boots, or Nike boots, or our work boots? Or Nike work boots is actually what he said. I'm sorry. He didn't know the brand, so he just kind of threw out Nike out there. This is what he does. She asked him about his testimony in the preliminary hearing on South Johnson was the truth. He said, yeah, of course, correct. He did not know that Mr. Payton, which is a neighbor over there of the Kaufman residence, or at the time the Pickett residence, said what he saw. He did not know what Kim Stout had said. She asked him if he got any information from his private investigator or any documents that he read personally in regards to what Corey Kaufman had said that day, or what he had said to Corey Kaufman that day on Johnson Street. This led to a sidebar. There was some issue there. I don't know what it was. And she asked again, did anyone say what Kim Stout said? He said no. The bathroom break on she was really bouncing around. And on the bathroom break on March 1st of 2014, she asked him if he told Kurt Bunch he was not being truthful. And he was trying to recall when he was talking to Kurt Bunch in regards to that information. He wasn't sure if Kurt Bunch was in the bathroom or where he had the conversation with Kurt Bunch. But apparently Steve Jacobson and Kurt Bunch did talk about his statement prior to going back into the interview room, off camera, off mic. Note 2, Marlissa Ferreira was on a rapid pace. She must have drank a lot of caffeine during the lunch because she was rip-roaring through these questions. Very difficult to keep up with. Even the court reporter had to keep asking her to slow down. Marlissa Ferreira asked him if he was being cooperative with Kurt Bunch after the bathroom break. And Kurt Bunch wanted to talk about the property, meaning Frank Carson's property. Did Kurt Bunch say, "I do not believe you"? He didn't recall. But he did say that he was not being cooperative with Kurt Bunch. As Kurt Bunch was being confrontational with him, and she asked him, was Kurt Bunch saying truthful statements about what happened? And she didn't really get an answer out of that one. But he did finally say that Robert Woody said that on the Frank Carson property, they beat him and he got shot. On 8/15 of 2015 interview and the walkthrough interviews, that's when they walked through the property, remember? They went to the Carson property, the Poppencork, and they went to the mountains. She asked him who pointed out where the body had been dumped. He says, "I did." He said Corey Brown was still on the road when he first got there. He pointed out the area, and then he directed Corey Brown down to where he said where he dumped the body. He had to direct him in. Going back to the March 1st of 2014 interview, when he was threatened by the Outlaws, she asked if he recalled that. In the interview, he says, "I do not recall what he said." Refresh with the transcript and the interview. Both Atwalls said, "Keep your fucking mouth shut." He said that was before and after the Corey Kaufman incident. Also noted in this section too, Marlissa Ferreira is getting frustrated getting answers out of Robert Woody, and there's a constant onslaught of leading objections that are being sustained. The judge was not happy. She kept telling Marlissa Ferreira to stop leading the witness. Finally, in front of the jury, she tells her to stop testifying. She made a comment and not a question in front of the jury, and she told her to stop testifying to the jury. This is how things got this afternoon. So Robert Woody was reading the text of the interview, and when Kurt Bunch asked about after the homicide and the threats, Robert Woody's not really understanding the question. He's having a tough time up there at times. Finally, he says, "Oh, okay, got it, correct." She asked him about when Jai Gohill asked about the preliminary testimony, and what he said was not true. He said he didn't lie in the preliminary hearing, but he did tell Jai Gohill he did. He asked about the interview and how many pages he had gone through. And that was talking about the preliminary hearing, actually, not the interview, because Robert Woody said that he had gone through like 5 lawyers through the preliminary hearing. So there was an objection to that about all the lawyers and stuff. He is unable to remember everything, and he says she asked him actually, "Are you unable to remember everything?" He says, "Well, I'm not able to remember so much." He did not recall his 10/5 of 16 preliminary hearing testimony. Again, a whole slew of objections, of leading questions. The judge sent the jury out at 2:23. Robert Woody was sent out of the room. There was initially they were going to have a sidebar. She decided to send everybody out. Jai Gohill argued to the court that Marlissa Ferreira, again, is 100% coaching the witness. It's totally improper conduct. giving Robert Woody the answers prior to asking the questions. Some of them aren't even in question form. She's just making statements. And he also was concerned about Robert Woody mentioning the 5 defense lawyers. Attorney Hans argued which interview in question Marlissa Ferreira asked Robert Woody, and he said yesterday that he lied, and she needs to narrow it down a little bit because there's so many different things he said in so many different interviews. He said them differently in the preliminary hearing. Now he's saying them different in the trial. And now Marlissa Ferreira is trying to lead Robert Woody into answers. Marlissa Ferreira said which interview is the proper question that they're asking about. And Judge Aniga said that's not the question. It's the leading question. That's the problem that we have right now. And she started reading the real time and read the question during preliminary hearing. Did you understand the question? So the way that she asked it, she said it was leading. Marlissa Ferreira says she wanted to ask another question, and now clearly Robert Woody is confused. Well, he's been confused all along. And her objection by Jai Gohel, the objection by Jai Gohel to the question, and Robert Woody memory fuzzy, was misleading the preliminary hearing that Kim Stout's and her statement to law enforcement officers. Okay, sounds confusing, right? It is confusing. What happened was that Martha Magana, according to Marlissa Ferreira, asked a question that was not true. She said she was conflating 2 interviews that was used by the defense. So she's talking about an interview where Robert Woody was thinking it was an August 14th interview, but Kim Stout was not mentioned until months later interview. So she said that Martha Magana was conflating from the 8/14/15 interview until another interview, probably in October is my guess. She was saying that she did object yesterday because it was conflated. The judge overruled her objection. Marlissa Ferreira started reading the preliminary transcript of the question by Martha Magana. Robert Woody was confused by the defense lawyer, and Jai Gohel got him to say that he lied at the preliminary hearing. Robert Woody is thinking of the 8/14/15 interview. Robert Woody was misled by defense attorneys in the preliminary hearing, and Jai Gohel capitalized it, and that's what defense attorneys do, quote unquote. Judge Zuniga responded before her little tirade, and Marlissa Ferreira was a little worked up and went on one of her little rants that she does. She said the questions are leading, and the only issue right now is not all the other things that she went on about, but she's concerned about the leading questions. Attorney Hans argued that Marlissa Ferreira comments are assuming facts that are not necessarily part of the record. The quotes from the preliminary hearing, Robert Woody says he kinda, no, he doesn't kinda, he wavered on the South Johnson Asses Grass comment. Later, he told Ken, he was told that Kim Stout had made the statement about what she had said about seeing the altercation. Hans asked if he's still fuzzy when he was in the preliminary hearing, and yesterday Robert Woody admitted that he lied about that. So Marlissa Ferreira says, well, if the issue is leading, then Attorney Hans's argument is not relevant either. I guess she's trying to get something tit for tat there. During these long rants that Marlissa Ferreira gets into, sometimes I quit writing, and sometimes I regret it because I can't keep up with it, and a lot of it's repetitive and doesn't make sense. But Marlissa Ferreira accused, according to Judge Zuniga in her response here, let me put it that way, Marlissa Ferreira accused Judge Zuniga of a travesty of justice, and she says that was insulting to the court. Judge Zuniga was insulted by Marlissa Ferreira's comments, and Marlissa Ferreira is quite common, does things like that. Then she turns around and asks what page Marlissa Ferreira is referencing. So now she's no longer just a leading question issue. Marlissa Ferreira has convinced Judge Zuniga again that there is, has deflected the issue again, and needs to show the court where they were talking about which interviews they were talking about. It really gets confusing. I know I sound confusing at times, but I'm trying to give it to you the best I can because sometimes I know a lot about this case and it gets confusing to me. So they're trying to find the exact location of the preliminary hearing transcript, and Attorney Hans gave Judge Zuniga the bait stamp number and the page number and the lines number, and he says it directly contradicts and disputes what Marlissa Ferreira is claiming. He says, Judge, he gave her the page number, the line number, all that stuff. Marlissa Ferreira immediately says, well, she'll withdraw her question then and move on because she wants to get the jury back in the room. She's concerned about getting this moving forward. So then we're back on track. The jury's back up at 3:12 p.m. Robert Woody's back on the stand. And Marlissa Ferreira asked him, did you lie in the preliminary hearing? No, ma'am. When Jai Gohel asked you what you said you said you did. He said that Jai Gohel kept pushing him, and he got pissed and just said it. Was that what he did with the investigators too then? He said he told some lies in the investigation and he told some truths. He heard a lot of rumors, and she asked him if he incorporated some of those rumors into his story. And she asked him, did you tell rumor or did you tell truth? And then she went down the list. On 3-1 of 14, did you tell? There was an objection to that, by the way, to tell rumor or truth because it's kind of vague. So she had to go down in each interview. On 3-1 of 14, did you tell rumors? No. 3-14 of 14 with Agent Jefferson, which was a polygraph interview. Did you tell rumors? No. 8-14 of 15. Did you tell rumors? No, ma'am. During testimony and preliminary hearing, did you testify to rumors that you heard? No. During the trial testimony, have you used rumors? No. All the trials, she asked him, all the trial testimony that you have given is true. Yes, ma'am. Then she asked him, for some reason, she wants to keep doing this, and I don't really understand why. It doesn't make sense. But she says in regards to Walter Wells, he came back to the Poppin Cork after the body was buried in the side lot. Was he ever told why Walter Wells came back, told why he came back? He says no. Any reason he came back to Poppin Cork by Atwalls explained to him by the Atwalls? He did not recall. In the 7/22 of 16 interview with Marlissa Ferreira, and she said John Evers, I believe it was Steve Jacobson. There was an objection to that, and I think that Marlissa Ferreira wasn't getting it, and Judge Zuniga didn't get it, but she said John Evers was in that interview, and it was Steve Jacobson. It took quite a while for him to figure out what Hans's objection was. But Marlissa Ferrer and Steve Jacobson were asked by with the meeting with them, and they were asked by the defense that he said he lied in regards to Frank Carson, the gun, handing off of the gun from Daljeet Atwal to Frank Carson. Walter Wells was there, and then he recanted just a couple days later through his attorney. She asked him during that 7/22/16. By the way, he recanted. Walter Wells was not there. Frank Carson was not there. Daljeet Atwal did not hand off a gun to Frank Carson. And he's admitted this, and we get into that in a little bit. She asked him, was his attorney, Martin Baker, present at the DA's office? But yes, he was not in the room. He was in another room and available, is the way it was put. He did talk to Martin Baker a little bit during and after the interview. When he went back to Tuolumne County, he had met with Martin Baker again and the private investigator, Tim Helton. And that was like the 7/22/16 interview was on a Friday, and it was like a Monday or a Tuesday, or both days, I think, that they had gone back, the attorneys had gone back up there to talk to him along with the private investigator. He said he wanted to discard what he said in a meeting with Marlissa Ferrer. He says it was wrong and just not proper thing to do. He says it was well beyond what happened. After the attorney meet, he told the attorney to contact the district attorney's office, and he had called his mom, Beverly Woody, and his son, Woodrow Woody, or it's Robert Woody Jr. actually, or Woodrow. They call him Woodrow. He told them what he did was wrong, and they were okay with him doing what he. And I've heard that that jail call, and it was okay with him to do whatever he needed to do to get his deal, quote unquote, what it was said at the time. There was no deal made at the time. The deal was made shortly thereafter. She asked about Jai Gohel had pointed out that Part A of his testimonial agreement to testify truthfully. The statements to law enforcement officers were not under oath, so it's okay to lie. The trial, they were not under oath like a trial or a retrial or preliminary hearing, anything like that. So apparently she's saying it's okay to lie to him. The 7/22/16 interview was prior to his August 3rd of 2016 plea agreement. She asked him if he spoke to Walter Wells afterwards and why, and there was an objection that was sustained. I don't know what that was all about. And she asked him if he, at the preliminary hearing, if he knew where Corey Kaufman lived at the time. And now she's talking about the time of the Ass's Grass comment. She asked him if he, of course, he said yes. That July is always, of course, before August, and he did know where Corey Kaufman lived. Obviously, she asked him if he mistrusted his lawyer, Martin Baker. He said yes, he did. He said there was little things that he wasn't sure about. She asked him about his relationship with Bruce Perry. What was that like? He said okay until he had shared something with Kurt Bunch. So he got the last part got objected to, especially, and then she asked what happened, but the whole thing was objected to except for the okay part. The rest of it was not allowed. So something happened with Bruce Perry and Kurt Bunch, that Robert Woody was not pleased about. She asked him if his relationship with Bruce Perry has changed, um, and that was if that had changed prior to the preliminary hearing too. Um, it was just prior to the preliminary hearing when these issues came up, apparently, or something happened. She asked him how he feels about Mr. Bonner, who is there in court every day with him, um, and is works in Bruce Perry's law office. Said he didn't trust Kurt Bunch in March 1st of 2014. He says, but it is different now. Marlissa Ferrer asked him about Percy Martinez referring to the preliminary hearing testimony of the 8:14 and 15 interview. And Robin Attenhofer had filled in the hole. The hole that he had Corey Kaufman in the Pop and Cork lot, side lot. In the preliminary, or in the 8:14 and 15 interview, he said that he had Robin Attenhofer fill in the hole, and he had testified to that also. He said he had made that statement during the interview and now is saying Robin Attenhofer did not help at all. She asked him about the digits that were being tossed into the river prior to the cooperation with law enforcement officers. He said, well, that was not done either. He said Baljit Atwal had driven to the mountains to move the body, and she asked him, did you kill Corey Kaufman? He said, no, I did not. He said, Baljit Atwal did it, and Bobby was there. Marlissa Ferrer said no further questions. Believe it or not. Attorney Hans went on cross and asked him about the 3-1 of 14 interview, and at the end of the interview, he said he never heard a shot and was consistent with that throughout his statements and testimony. On 7/22 of 16, he told Jacobson and Ferreira, and then talked to the attorney the next day to discard the information that he had given them on the 22nd. It actually wasn't the next day because that was a Friday when he did the interview. It was like Monday, and then he had another meeting on Tuesday. He said on July 25th he had talked to Martin Baker and private investigator Helton, or Tim Helton, I believe his name is, or whatever it is, last name of Helton, and he had gone back and forth on the July 22nd, 2016 interview, which was the previous Friday, about being truthful. He was waffling on it, and he said he didn't recall. He refreshed for the preliminary hearing testimony, and Hans had walked up there with his computer, as Hans doesn't do anything on paper, he does everything on computer, refreshing his memory. And he said, yeah, that was true, that he was going back and forth. That's what he had said previously. Attorney Hans said no further questions. Jai Gohel said no further questions. Percy Martinez said no further questions. Marlissa Ferreira said no further questions. There was a major gasp in the room. Robert Woody was finally done. 15 days on the stand. It was late in the afternoon. It was a little before 4 o'clock. The jury was sent out for the day. They're coming back next Thursday. So no court until next Thursday. Tuesday's a holiday. Wednesday, Jai Gohel has a federal case in Fresno or somewhere. And so there's no court on Thursday or on Wednesday. So you're coming back next Thursday for just 2 days next week. At this time, they called. They took Woody out. The jury was sent home. And Jared Jordan, he's a former prosecutor. He had testified earlier in a 402 hearing, which is an evidentiary hearing, in this thing early on. He had prosecuted Mike Monachia. And so he is also representing Praveen Singh. Jared Jordan is a public defender that was a prosecutor, now a public defender, and uh, he's representing Praveen Singh, and the defense has made a motion that he should be excluded from the courtroom because he's a witness in this case, and he could still be called. Percy Martinez had made the motion. There are several charges, he said, against Praveen Singh. They're also asking any benefits to him, if there's been any changes from the last assurance of no benefits were given to him, and there's no new benefits that given to him since they last discussed this, since they previously discussed for this case. Marlissa Ferrer said there's no changes. An offer was made to Praveen Singh to testify in this case, and Praveen Singh declined the offer. His testimony, because he claimed the fifth, his testimony is now under immunity by court order. Judge Aniga ordered immunity for him to testify in this case. Percy Martinez requests the offer that was offered to Praveen Singh. He wanted to see what that offer was. Judge Aniga says under immunity that offer is not relevant. Praveen Singh has declined an offer, so it is not relevant what that offer is. Also, Judge Aniga asked if any expenses had been offered to Praveen Singh, as far as, like they had with some of the other witnesses, transportation issues or anything like that. So Percy Martinez went on to argue that all witnesses have been excluded by order of the court, and Jared Jordan has testified in this case subject to recall, and he had testified in, like I said, in the 402 hearing, evidentiary hearing of Michael Monachia, and asked if there was any deals or anything made with the Monachia case when he was prosecutor. As a public defender, he can be excluded because there's many other attorneys that can assist Praveen Singh out of the public defender's office. He said there's 30 public defenders in that office. It doesn't have to be Jared Jordan. Judge Aniga, staying true to form, she cannot remember Jared Jordan testifying or what date. Again, Jared Jordan couldn't remember the exact date, but he said, yeah, it was a 402 hearing. And he said that the Praveen Singh issue is not an issue, and he has not been subpoenaed in this case either. He has not received a subpoena. Praveen Singh's issues are extensive, and there's no issue of prejudice. And he says he's aware of Praveen Singh's cases, both federal and anything else, intimately, and so if there's other attorneys that couldn't represent him as well as he could. Percy Martinez argued that the defense intends to call Jared Jordan, and there could be related issues as to Monachia. So there could be related issues to Monachia and Praveen Singh, and there could be a problem there since he was a prosecutor in Monachia's case, and he's a public defender for Praveen Singh in this same case. So it is his relationship. So something happened in his relationship, and he with Kurt Bunch, and he had contacted Kurt Bunch in this case in regard to something. Percy Martinez argued no matter the time spent with Praveen Singh, there is a motion to exclude, and he could be covered by many other attorneys. Marlissa Ferrer stepped in and wanted to address one of the issues that he had provided. Judge Aniga says, no, you can't talk. This is between Jared Jordan and defense. Judge Aniga said that in witnesses in a preliminary hearing have mandatory exclusion. Discretion in trial is up to the court. The court has discretion in trial. She says motion denied without any more real explanation. So Attorney Hans argued that Praveen Singh will invoke the Fifth Amendment. And Judge Aniga says his federal case is off limits. He's already invoked on the federal case, and he's off limits. Hahn said the cross-exam could lead to information on the federal case inadvertently in that part of his testimony. And Jai Gohil said the same thing. If Praveen Singh invokes the Fifth, it is for all cases and not just part of his testimony. Judge Aniga says it's already been litigated, and she said she's made a ruling on this before, but as usual, she can't remember her rulings, and she needs to research it and confirm what she's thinking. So Praveen Singh is called to the stand, and this is a little after 4. They're just going to get him to take his fifth, do the Fifth, and then again invoke immunity. Marlissa Ferreira asked him if he has a pending case in federal court, and he said yes. It's in regard to real estate fraud type charges. He invokes the Fifth Amendment for the federal case. So Judge Aniga stopped any other questioning of this. They cannot ask him anything about the federal case because he has pending charges. And Praveen Singh was ordered back next Thursday, 2/14 of 19 at 9:30 in the morning. He's probably going to be the next witness that appears. That's always subject to change. And so that's where we left it at 4 o'clock, a little after 4 o'clock. Robert Woody is finally done. It was a grueling time for all involved. The jury was not pleased with the way it went on redirect for 5 days, I believe it was, and they were not pleased. It was obvious. So that's it for what happened today. So remember, there's no court until next Thursday. And don't forget the PayPal button at the bottom of each report. If you want to make a donation to Dawgs Blog, and it's just trying to pay the bills. That's all I'm trying to do, folks. And I've gotten a couple nice donations lately. I do appreciate it very much. The last couple days, so it's nice. Don't forget my sponsor, Merced Tile Supply, and they'll take care of your tile needs. He's got a good assortment of stuff, and I'm not just saying that. He really does. So. Yeah, all that information is on my site. You can go through and see there's a video of Merced Tile Supply on my site with his showroom and some displays he has. Some really nice stuff. It really is. So that's where we're at. We'll be back next Thursday. And like I always say, don't take my word for it. Come to court and find out for yourself.